This is going to be part 2 of that talk on double standards. I ended part 1 by saying this goes to lack of understanding how government is supposed to work. And in the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, it clearly states that there's actually a chain of command at the state and federal level, and what power the state has in relation to federal authority. A president cannot just impose what he wants on any state without that state first giving him authorization to do so. Now, Kanye said that Bush didn't care about black people. But when Haiti was hit with the earthquake in 2010, Obama didn't visit. His wife Michelle did, along with Jill Biden. In 2009, Barack Obama's budget actually cut funding to HBCUs by $85 million. Nobody said anything. And he got hailed as a savior in 2010 when he gave the money back that he took from them the previous year. This is typical behavior. Create problem, offer solution, get the accolades. Now, every last one of you listening to this know that if this had happened under George Bush, we would have never heard the end of it. As a matter of historical record, Republicans were actually very instrumental in the founding of many of the HBCUs. Matter of fact, Howard University, to cite one example, is actually named after a white man, General Oliver Howard, who was a Civil War hero. Now, Clarence Thomas and Herman Cain had their character assassinated because of incidents involving women and black folks. And black folks were all over them for their indiscretions. Now, what's been in the news the last year or so is Bill Cosby's indiscretion. And I think a couple of days ago they came out and said he was found not guilty or something of the sort. Now, Martin Luther King, we just celebrated King holiday it was actually exactly a week ago. But he was a well-known philanderer. His indiscretions were no secret at all. Now, Cain and Thomas's accusers came out only after these men were going for high-ranking positions. And black people were actually happy that these women came forward because these two men were evil Republicans. And I know the biggest issue with Clarence Thomas was they were happy Anita Hill came out and tried to destroy him because he married a white woman. How dare he marry a white woman? But these two men were evil Republicans, but what history doesn't talk about a whole lot, Martin Luther King was a Republican too. But I guess since Martin Luther King was running and big and daddy, he was okay. He was our hero. As my wife always says, if you have been quiet all of these past years about your relationship with a man, don't wait 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road to come out. She said if you were quiet then, you need to be quiet now. Bill Clinton's extracurricular activities were no secret either. But the response I heard from blacks was, he's just being a man. My wife and I weren't even married when this happened, and we had the discussion, and I say, well, what about Bill Clinton just being a man? She say, you try that with me. Ted Kennedy left a woman in his car that he drove in the river, and he didn't even tell nobody until he had went and slept it off for the night, and woke up the next day knowing he had left this woman in the car. But how did we treat him? It didn't bother him at all. But Clinton and Kennedy were Democrats, and we love us some Kennedys and Clintons as black folks. Now, Rick Perry, former governor of the state of Texas, has a family ranch, and there's a stone on the ranch that has the name Niggerhead on it. And blacks said that proved how racist Republicans were, because Rick Perry's family owned a ranch that says Niggerhead. Now, Robert Byrd, former Senate icon, as quoted by President Barack Obama, that black people love, said nigger on television twice in 2001, and blacks said nothing. Ben Carson has been a successful neurosurgeon for many years, and it's amazing all the great works he's done, and blacks have started to question his credibility as a doctor because they don't like his politics. Barack Obama spent one term as a senator and time as an hourly lecturer, not a constitutional law professor like they led everyone to believe. But many blacks talk about how successful he was before the presidency. As black people, we criticize Sarah Palin for her daughter having kids out of wedlock. But in our community, our illegitimate childbirth rate is the highest in the nation. Many will say that Palin wants to portray this image of wholesomeness in her family. Well, what about black American black women wanting to be portrayed as queens, giving themselves a level of purity also? Their behavior doesn't warrant queen status either. We also say nothing about our young women and men having multiple kids out of wedlock with no means or desire to take care of them. We keep bringing up the KKK and their atrocities against blacks, but our black women actually abort more babies in 2 days than the entire existence of the KKK. But hey, it's a choice. If the KKK was a racist terror organization, what does that make our black women who abort their babies daily? We are currently complaining about the water situation up in Flint, Michigan, saying it's a way to destroy blacks. But did you know there was a cryptosporidium outbreak in Milwaukee in 1993 where the majority affected were white? But it's always about racism. Each year, allowable contaminant levels are increased in your water supply, your municipal water supply. But they keep saying the water is safe for consumption. Why wait for the government to care about your own health? Water's poison, air is poison, ground is poison, pharmaceuticals are poison, food is poison, vaccines are poison, and we think the government has our best interests at hand? Each year, I receive a water quality report, I believe in July, August, and I think around the country, most municipalities are actually required to send you one. If not, contact them and you can get a copy of it. But why not be proactive? Since you know the water contamination is possible, why not be proactive and save some money and go buy yourself a good quality water filtration system? Those on the store shelves only improve the taste and not a whole lot else, but it makes people feel good. You know, I have access to the #1 rated system on the market. I actually have one in my house. But many people say the system itself is too expensive. Well, if we break it down per gallon, it's actually cheaper than bottled water. And the once-a-year filter replacement is much less than a pint of water. A half a liter, whatever those 24 packs they sell in the store, is actually cheaper than those if you really look at it. And people say the system is expensive. Yeah, up front initially it is. But what is it expensive compared to? Is it expensive compared to what the people are dealing with in Michigan right now? Because many of them having to collect rainwater just to be able to drink and use for cooking. Is it expensive compared to doctor visits? Is it expensive compared to cancer? I mean, you make the call. I can't make it for you. But now this outbreak up in Michigan is called racist. Now, I'm not going to get into the racist aspect. I'm just saying, in 93, majority of white people got sick. This year, last year, 2015, majority of black people apparently getting sick. So, I think it's about people. I don't think it's about a particular race. Now, if the current one in Michigan is racist, what are we going to call the one in 1993? But another way we participate in double standards as black people is the way we respond to a politician's comments. If a Republican says something, blacks hang on to every word looking to criticize. If a Democrat says something, it's like a drive-by happened. We didn't hear or see nothing. On June 16th, Donald Trump said Mexico was sending all of its criminals to the U.S. People were outraged, especially black folks. But that wasn't a whole speech. That was just a soundbite. Because if you'd listened to the whole speech, what he said was many of the Mexican people coming over here were actually good people. However, on July 1st, 2015, just less than a half a month later, Barack Obama referred to illegal immigrants as gangbangers, and that was barely a whisper anywhere. When Joe Biden talked to an audience in 2012, which was predominantly black, he specifically told blacks that Republicans would put them back in chains. Now, this was the same Joe Biden who bragged that his home state of Delaware was a slave state. Now, Biden also said that Obama was the first mainstream African American who was articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. So what does that make the rest of black folks? Black folk. And who could forget Harry Reid's comments? He believed the country was ready to embrace a black presidential candidate, especially one such as Obama, a light-skinned African American with no Negro dialect, unless he wanted to have one. Now, Mitt Romney was secretly recorded talking about the amount of recipients on welfare, the 47%. And many ran with this and said Romney was out of touch with mainstream America. Now, contrast that with this. Barack Obama told blacks at the Congressional Black Caucus dinner to quit crying and complaining and put on your marching shoes to follow him into the battle for jobs and opportunity. Both of these men called people lazy, but only one was ostracized. Even Democratic Representative Marcia Fudge had this to say to blacks: even when you won't fight for yourself, we fight for you. Whether it's immigration or education, whether it's food stamps or housing, we fight for you every day. So my message to you is to contain your complaining. Now, what if these statements had been made by that were actually made by Democrats, were made by any Republican? The Republican Party would never hear the end of it.